If you don't see an opportunity today, then keep saving.
Welcome back to Life Worth Chasing. I'm your host, Chase Maher, and this show is about helping entrepreneurs build their business around their dream lifestyle. All right, my guest today served 12 years in the military as a U.S. Navy SEAL. He did 5 years as agency direct hire in support of counterterrorism. He's been deployed and conducted operations in over 12 countries. He's performed as a trainer, advisor, stunt performer, cast on several productions, including American Assassin, Jack Ryan, and Ironman, just to name a few. Besides being a total badass and what I call the real-life version of Guile from Street Fighter, he's the fittest dude I know, somebody I truly admire. He's got the longest, best intro I've ever done on this podcast. And today, we're not going to talk about any of that. We're going to talk about how he's a savant with money and microeconomics and personal finance, and how you can use what he calls his personal system to take your finances to the next level. He's a buddy of mine. He is Joost Janssen. Joost, welcome to the show, bro.
Man, thanks, Chase. I hope I can kind of live up to that intro a little bit.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, you're truly a special guy. Not only have you served and the elitist of elite for our country, but you followed your passions and got into Hollywood. And I know you've worked really hard on that. And I think we knew each other for about a year before I even knew you were into money and finance. And we kind of even connect on a further level with that. Yeah, I mean, you truly look like one of my childhood heroes, Guile from Street Fighter. So that's even cool. Some people might be listening to this show, might not even know who that is. So you'll have to Google it. It's Guile, and that's what Joost looks like. So Joost, anything you want to say on that before we jump in?
No, let's just jump in. Let's bypass the Street Fighter reference.
All right, cool, man. Works for me. So, Joost, tell me this. I always ask, early years, I think every podcaster does it. I try to do something a little unique every time, but I want to ask this. Why did you join the U.S. Navy SEALs?
It's a long story, but a very simple answer. I had my life all figured out. I was married. Everything was wonderful. I had plans together. My wife was about to finish nursing school. I was a paramedic, and we had already started investing in real estate. And then one morning, after 2 years we were married, she was killed in a car wreck. And after that, nothing was the same again. And about a year and a half of me not being able to figure out what I wanted at all, including wanting to live, I just decided to research and find out what's the hardest thing I can do. And I settled on the Navy SEALs, and I just went for it.
Wow, man. That is, that's powerful and short and to the point. I appreciate that, you sharing that. So you looked up what's the hardest thing you can do and found the opportunity with the SEALs. You did 12 years there, then 5 years. And your bio, you put quote unquote agency direct support for counterterrorism. You kind of been doing the hardest things for a long time, huh?
Yeah, to me, if there's a high probability for success, I'm usually not interested. I like to go for things that, even when you look at Hollywood and things like this, I go for things that most people, including myself, don't really believe I can do it. And that makes me really excited to try.
Yeah, man. And I really admire that. Something about you that I've always really looked up to is, we've been in a mastermind together for a couple of years. And whenever we do the fitness routines, how old are you, Joost? 50?
47.
47. Oh, I take that back.
That 50. Dang, we need to talk about that later.
Well, you certainly don't look like it or perform like it, I must say. You're always the top performer right there. And it's not that I'm always trying to beat you, as I'm always trying to, when we're doing these fitness boot camps, as Nicholas likes to call them, I'm always trying to be as close to your level as possible. And so you're still pushing it to this day. And you telling me that you always look for the hardest thing kind of segues me into what I want to talk about here, because yesterday on the phone, you told me when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, you look for kind of the opposite, sort of the easiest thing that's going to make the most return. So before we get into what you do with business and finance, what's that mindset like where in your personal career life, you look at the hardest thing? With fitness, I would imagine you're always looking at the hardest thing. But with business and investing, you're looking at what's the lowest time, highest output. I don't want to say easiest thing, but you kind of know where I'm going with it.
Yeah, exactly. So the way I look at business is not in itself one of my passions. I don't wake up every morning excited to work on any of my businesses at all. So it's turned into my criteria for starting or buying a business or being involved in the business is, how many hours a week does it take from me? And are those hours flexible? In other words, if I'm overseas working on a movie, is my business going to fall apart or not if I'm gone for a few months? So I look at that criteria before I make a decision. That's why I love things. One of my businesses is like a hard money lending business. So I do a few hours of work a month. And I just picked up a new client last week on that. And even with a new client, a few hours, one meeting, some emails, sign a contract, and everything else is automated. So I love that stuff.
Yeah, man. And we're going to talk about that quite a bit. But first, I would imagine you definitely you make some money probably still from the military, right? You still get some income there, maybe some benefits.
Yeah, like I know where you're going here. Actually, right before this call, I wrote down, I just came up with 9 sources of income.
There we go.
And so I'm a big believer in multiple. I don't pick one and try to build it into a multi-million-dollar business. I pick one and I kind of try to find out what's the ideal thing on this business. Like from a hard money lending business, having like between 5 and 8 clients is like the perfect spot. If I grow beyond that, a lot of things happen. I need staff, I need support, I need more money to lend. So the risk level goes up. So a lot of things happen at that point. And I'm also responsible to other people as well if I grow that business. So I grew it to the point where I can use my own money and my own money only. I don't need to rely on anybody else for funding. And that's kind of where I want to keep it. So right now, I just have a short waiting list for people who want to get involved with me in that business. And then when money opens up, I bring them in and we go on from there. But from those sources of income, I just counted 10. And they ranged from like the hard money lending business I'm talking about. And another source is I have a roommate. Actually, I have 2 roommates, a couple that lives with us. So to me, like I look at everything in my life and I want to maximize it. So I have a house with an extra bedroom. Most people would be like, well, you make enough money, you don't need roommates. And it's like, well, it's not about that. It's about maximizing this house. So it's not just a money suck, it's actually making me money as well. So there's small sources and bigger sources. And to me, I just keep looking at adding more. Instead of growing them, I just try to add more to them.
Yeah, we call that house hacking. I'm sure you've heard that term before. I did that when I bought my first property when I was 18. I rented out the bedrooms to college buddies and essentially lived for free as long as I kept the property occupied. And I was making 6 figures at the time selling houses. I didn't have to do that, but I had the same mindset. I didn't want to look at paying a mortgage every month as paying it. I wanted to look at an expense to an income stream.
Yeah, when we go into the kind of like my version of personal financial freedom, that will come back into play again too. The part about maximizing everything, and because everything counts. If you kind of do it the way I try to teach people to do it, number one, you will succeed if you follow the rules. There's no like you might succeed. You will succeed. There's no question. And also, it's mostly a mindset change more than actually something physically you have to go do.
And we will get to Joost's $1 million personal system right after this commercial break. No, I'm just kidding. But Joost is a master of cliffhangers. He did the best cliffhanger I've ever seen a speaker do a couple years ago at BDB Live. So we're going to leave that one on a cliff and we're going to move on. Joost, like at what point in your life did you figure out that you didn't want to have like some big business? I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they're like, I want to have $100 million business, but you are like, I want to have 9 or 10 smaller income streams that build into the income that somebody would have if they had one big one, but without the stress levels. Like, how old were you at the time? What was going on? Like, what made you think of that?
So basically 12 years ago, a major financial bad event happened in my family's life. And I'm not the only one. That was around 2007, 6, 7, 8, that era, where I was heavily focused on, I was still active duty in the SEAL teams, but I was heavily focused on real estate. And I was doing pretty good. I had properties in 4 different countries, and they were all doing relatively well. And then I got involved with some guys that were investing in big commercial projects. And they're all living in multi-million-dollar houses, driving Range Rovers and all that. And I'm like going like, man, they're not even working that hard. I'm working twice as much as they are. I should be like living that kind of lifestyle. So I joined up with them. And a word of warning is, if you rely on other people for their expertise, and then you don't really understand the process, don't join, don't invest, don't get involved. I made the assumption that my partners knew more than I did, and they were able to kind of make this happen. So to make a long story short, everything went wrong at the same time. 2 of my properties got hit by a hurricane in Texas and got demolished. A major real estate commercial deal that with those 4 partners I was involved with, it's a $40 million building we're trying to buy. I lost $300,000 that I put into just that one project. And back then, that was almost all of my net worth at the time too. And a lot of it was because I had gaps in my knowledge base. I didn't understand money. I understood money like the rest of America knows money. I know how to spend it. I know the technical parts of it. But if you would ask me where a dollar comes from, how many US dollars exist in the world, those are questions a first grader in America should be able to answer. I couldn't answer them. So I went on a long journey to answer those questions. And it wasn't like I can pick up a book or anything. I had to pull out sources from everywhere and talk to a lot of people to finally kind of piece together how the whole thing works.
So it came from a failure. What do you, surprise, the decision came from a failure. That's like a lot of us, right?
Came from a failure. Well, back then, getting more to the question you had, I thought my dream at the time was to be a real estate mogul, a mini Donald Trump, going out, and I wanted like a condo in Aspen, and I wanted like a place in Cancun, and I just wanted all these luxury places that were making me money flipping. And in my mind, that's kind of like the vision I had for myself when I got out of the SEAL teams. It's like I'm jumping straight into real estate. And I ended up getting out of the SEAL teams in 2009. And that's kind of the year everything kind of fell apart at once. And a bunch of houses got underwater, issues with some properties in Thailand, and that one big commercial real estate deal. And I made a decision. I said, what I really, really want is I want freedom. I don't want money. I don't want houses. I don't want stuff. I want freedom. I don't want to have to answer to somebody. I want to be able to take advantage of opportunities as they come up and not be like, no, I'm stuck to this job, or I'm stuck to these toys I have to pay for, and things like that. And my mind shift changes, and I decide I want one house, in the house I live in. That's it. And that doesn't mean I don't think real estate is a good investment, because I am also invested now in another real estate deal. But I put all my eggs in the real estate basket. And I also I was good at like finding deals, putting sweat equity into them, and selling them for sometimes double what I paid. But that's hard work. It takes a year or two to kind of do one good flip. I have to move in there, live there, rent rooms while I'm fixing it up. That was my way of doing it. And it worked really well, but it was slow. If I stuck with that, I'd be in a lot better financial situation today, because I had to basically start all over again.
Yeah. So when you made the decision, like, okay, it's not the stuff that I wanted, it's the freedom, what came next? Like, did you build out a plan where 12 years later you'd have 10 income streams, or did one kind of build off of another?
Yeah. The first thing was I looked at my streams of not income, but outflow. So every loan I had, all the properties I have loans on. So I just started going from my highest interest loan, and I'm getting rid of this loan one way or another. So I sold houses at a loss. I was into oil investing. So I sold profitable oil wells just to get rid of the underlying debt attached to the real estate. So my first goal was to be essentially debt free. So I would go, and at the time I was working overseas, I was making good money because it was a high risk job. But every time I did a 2-3 month deployment, I take that money and I just basically have to give it to the bank. Just so, because I didn't want to foreclose. I had a top security clearance, and I didn't want to lose that because of a bankruptcy or my credit being hit. So I had to basically make up the difference in the losses in real estate personally. And I'm now looking back, I'm glad I did it. It would have been easy just to kind of walk away, but I'm glad I actually kept my credit up. Not that I needed my credit, but just for my own personal satisfaction, I was able to dig my way out without having to go into bankruptcy.
Totally. So number one was you paid off high interest debt, pay off consumer debt. And then what came next?
Then at that point, like I drew out my life. I drew out the life I wanted, which in a nutshell is I want the freedom to pursue passions as they come up. Because I know one thing about myself. I wish I had one passion for life and that would be it. But that would be too simple. Like you ask me my passion today, it might be different tomorrow. But typically, like my passions will last a year, half a year, 2 years sometimes. But I also know they'll never stick around forever, indefinitely. They'll kind of come and go. And I love the freedom to, like 1 year, I might want to say I want to go hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And I just want to be able to have the opportunity to do it. A year later, I might be over it and want to do something else. And I love having that freedom just to be able to say yes to something. The same with Hollywood. Hollywood's not a big money maker, but when an opportunity comes, when that phone rings and says, hey, can you get on a plane, go to Morocco and help work on this TV show? And I want to be able to say yes. I don't want to have to say, no, I don't have enough vacation days saved up and blah, blah, blah. I can't do it,
Yeah, man. So let's say somebody's listening right now and they're like, maybe they're drowning in debt or they have a business that is profitable, but it's sucking out all their time. They don't have the freedom to pursue passions. And they're like, man, I want to be like Joost. I don't necessarily know if I want to do 17 years fighting terrorism, but what if they want the multiple income streams? Like, where do they start? Let's start getting into that personal system that you talked about. What is the first thing? Is it paying off that consumer debt?
No, not yet. The debt, as you know, there can be good debt, bad debt. But to me, it's like debt is debt. And I clump all my personal debt together. I don't care if it's on a mortgage or a credit card. It's still debt that you owe. And to me, it's like I like having the mindset that debt is yours. So I don't even think of bankruptcy or foreclosure or things like that. Like the way my mindset is, that's my responsibility. And they'll be all now, nothing against using the tools out there. I've got friends and people that even my brother, like went through the bankruptcy process and came out really strong on the other side and did really well. But for me, I didn't want to have to do that. So rule number one, and this is a tough one in the beginning, especially, live off 50% of your income. And most people would go, okay, that makes sense. And then the next thought is, no way I can live off 50% of my income. So first thing we do is we make a plan to get there. So there's two ways to get there. Either increase your income or reduce your expenses, but usually it's a combination of both. And that's when we start talking about different things they can do. Now, to me, it's like, I don't like to have people focus on increasing income because most people, when they increase their income, they increase their expenses right along with it and it gets them nowhere. To me, I want to take that first year and concentrate only on reducing expenses. So we start, I usually have families come in and say, bring everything. You owe everything you owe, everything you pay monthly, every contract you've ever signed that takes money from you every month. And we go through it all and I calculate for them. So the first thing I do is I start a net worth spreadsheet. So take all your assets on the top column and then all your debt underneath, and then subtract your debt away from your assets, and then you get your net worth. So that number is way more important than any other financial number, is net worth. I don't care what your income is. I don't care what your business makes. All that is like, what is your net worth? Because your net worth is the thing you want to protect. Every decision you make affects your net worth and either affects it positively or negatively. So having a spreadsheet set up, you can actually run a scenario. Hey, if I buy this new Lamborghini, what will it do to my net worth? And you can project the depreciation of the Lamborghini and what will it do over 5 years. And then I can tell you what the answer is. It'll have a negative impact on your net worth. Now, if you're into exotic car rentals and there's a market for renting that thing out for big money, that's another story. Now it's an income producer. So to me, I go through and I take out every unnecessary expense. And my definition of unnecessary expense is probably different than most people's. So most people would agree that, cable TV is a luxury if you can't afford it. Even Netflix, things like that, all these monthly things. Having a fancy cell phone plan is a luxury. My son is on a $15 a month plan with data and everything like that. with no contract. So that's a lot cheaper than my AT&T plan I'm paying for right now too, and for the same amount that I'm getting out of it. And then I go even further. I go, where are you living? And it could be a couple with kids. It could be a single person. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, reality is reality. If you can't afford to live where you're living, I'm not saying leave the city, but you can rent a trailer. You can rent a room. I mean, you can live under a bridge for 3 months if you have to. Like, I say that because I want to change your mindset. It's like, whatever it takes, you live off 50%. So if you're making $5,000 a month, then you need to live off $2,500. And we go through and I help them get there. So that doesn't mean you go live under a bridge tomorrow. You put a plan together that a goal 6 months to a year. At that point, you're at that 50%. In the meantime, that's what you need to focus on. Don't focus on starting a business or making new money and working overtime. That'll come later. Because once you get to that 50%, then we concentrate on increasing income with multiple streams and things like that. And then we start talking about ideas. It's like, like I've leased out my car just a few months ago because there's another stream of income because the opportunity came up. So I train them to look for opportunity, overtime, second jobs, things like that, spouses working, kids working, anything you can imagine, driving an Uber. Like right now in this day and age, there's no excuse, man. It's like there's a million things out there you can do to make extra money. And then we start building that up. So just to overflow, just to start in the beginning, live off 50% of your income. When you get there, now you're going to feel wealthy automatically. If you can do that part, live off 50% of your income, you will be a millionaire. Even if you do nothing with the other half, but stick it in your mattress. If you live long enough, you will be a millionaire. So it's just, now it's not a money thing anymore. It's a time thing. So now we want to speed up. So I calculate how long, and I just use $1 million as an example because most people don't believe they can make $1 million. So it's like with your current income, you live off 50% of it. How long will it take for you to be a millionaire? And usually it comes out to like 25 or 30 years or something like that with most people when they start out. So now we look at like reducing that time. Like I want to be a millionaire in 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, something like that. So then we keep doing things with the income side to increase it, keep adding things too. So use the assets you already have, look for opportunities, work harder, and kind of build it like that. And then the final stage is, what do we do with that 50% of the money that we put away and don't touch? And at that point, we go into that, what to do with that.
Okay. So before we get into that, let's go through a little bit of the training of looking for opportunities. Let's say, you have somebody, a lot of the listeners, they might be a real estate agent, they might be a wholesaler, or they might have a salary job and they want to start investing in real estate. What are some of the ways that they can look for opportunities to start making more money with limited time?
Start with the easy things first. Do you own a car? Go drive an Uber on your days off. Because number one, it'll give you time to think. It'll give you time to read, listen to podcasts, educate yourself, get more information. And it also keeps you from, the more busy you are, the less money you spend too on stupid things. Like not going to restaurants and things like that, alcohol, all that kind of stuff. It's just a money suck from you too. And I look at their lives, it's like you own a vehicle, you can drive Uber. You live somewhere where you have extra space, you can rent it. It could be a person, you could rent out storage. You get room in your driveway, park an RV in there for $80 a month or something like that. You go through and you look for every area that you already have that you're not maximizing. And once you do that, obviously you can't get too far that way. Then you start looking for other opportunities and other streams of income and businesses. And like we talked about in the beginning, for me, I look for businesses that don't take a lot of my time, relatively risk is a different definition for everybody, but a risk level you're comfortable with. And remember that 50% of the money you're saving, that grows pretty quickly. If you make $100K a year, you're putting away $50K a year. It's not long before that grows into something that can start producing you income. So that's the kind of money you take, and that income goes back to your income level too. So you can start spending more money, increase your lifestyle when your assets start producing the kind of income and your businesses start producing income where you're still living off 50%. But now that 50% is bigger than the old 100% they used to live on.
Right. So what do we do with that 50%? Where do we start? If somebody doesn't have any assets, they're living just off the 50% that they're making, what do they start doing with that 50% they're stacking?
Now, man, if I can get somebody there already, I mean, that's amazing. Like get to the actual 50% and they're living. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you've saved up 100K.
And before you go into that, do you think that is they should shoot for that and then they start doing your system, or is there like a minimum amount saved up? Because this is a question I get a lot, where it's like, I have 5 grand saved up, I have 10 grand saved up, and I always tell them to keep saving, because that 5 grand or 10 grand, it's better to either invest that in yourself or just keep saving until you get to that 50 grand, 100 grand level, to where you can start really making an impact. What do you suggest?
Well, I suggest it's different for everybody. There's some people where 5K, you can invest in your buddy's business who's looking to launch something, and that's all they need to start. But for most people, I think the first thing to do is build up a cushion. And to me, the cushion I believe in is cash only. So to me, the first 50K that you save, don't even take it to the bank. And we can do a whole nother podcast down the road on why not to put it in the bank. But it's you're not making enough interest to make it worthwhile. So keep it in cash, save it. And the goal should always be to have between 25 and 50K in your possession in cash. And there's multiple reasons for that. But the biggest one is like there's no benefit really to giving it to a bank. And then also the cash is extremely rare. Less than 2% of all US dollars even exist in cash. So you holding on to some of it when times are bad, it's a lot better than holding on to gold or silver or bullets and things like that. And then cash also gives you buying opportunities too. A lot of people, they flip stuff on Craigslist. So now you've got 25, 50K of cash sitting there. You see a good deal. It's like, man, I can buy this car, sell it tomorrow, and make $1,000. You walk in there with cash. Don't walk in there going, hey, I need to talk to my bank and get a loan. No, you deal with people in cash, and then you get the best price, the best deal. It's quick. So there's tons of benefits. So when I talk to opportunities, most people I said, if you don't see an opportunity today, then keep saving. Keep saving. It's like if you're like pretty soon, like opportunities will start flooding you at a certain point if you're looking. Then you got to start sorting through them. But in the beginning, you're going to have no opportunity, but you also have no money. If you get over a couple 100,000 and you still have no opportunities, then come talk to me. I'll show you some. But by that time, you will have seen it. You will have come across them.
I agree. Unfortunately, not everybody has that mindset of opportunity. And so to help them with that, first, just baby steps. Look at your income, and your first thing is live off 50% of your income. And over a 6 to 12 month period, start making the decisions so that you can live, safely and healthily, I don't even know if that's a word, off the 50% of the income. Then the second thing is that 50% you're saving. Let's get that first 25 to 50K and start programming your brain to look for opportunities to either buy low and sell high or maximize assets you already have. That's kind of the theme that I'm hearing from you. And some of the things that I've done in the past is flipping cars, takes a certain skill set and knowledge. Flipping furniture. You can go and our mutual friend Nicholas used to pick up free furniture and then put it for 25 or $50 on Craigslist. So there's a lot of things you can do there. Rent out bedrooms, lease out your car, go Uber, whatever. So now they've been doing this. We're at month 18 now. They say, Joost, I got, 75 grand saved up. I'm starting to make my 25 to 50 grand in cash work for itself by flipping things, and I'm maximizing my car. I'm maximizing the extra bedroom. I'm ready to take it to the next level. What's next?
Okay. Then now, man, it's like, if you get to that part, you're there already. You're basically there, because the hard part's done. Then we talk about like what opportunities look like. Like for me, just recently, I invested 100K into a new CBD business up in Long Beach that looked really promising, and I wanted to own a part of that business. And I may lose all that money, but to me, it's like I'm not scared of risk with that 50% money, because I know in a couple of years I can replace that and do it again. So for me, with that money, I'm conservative everywhere else, but with that money, like I'm not going to be reckless, but I'm not going to be afraid and scared to death to lose it either. So I've used that money and I've hit some out of the park, and I've lost my entire investment many times too. And you're going to have both, or you're going to have just basically a very average return a lot of times too. But on the safe side, you have 75, 100K. I mean, that's a down payment. You know, you can get into some piece of real estate that makes money. And obviously you're the guy to talk to. I'm sure you get a million opportunities you can show people that have 100K cash sitting there where they can turn it into some kind of income. And you can leave San Diego area too, man. Go places to the country where your ROI is a lot higher as well. A lot of people are up in like the Midwest area. A lot of people like Indiana, Ohio, and things like that. You get a better return for at least residential real estate. And investing in businesses itself, and then like buying a business. Like if you get 100K, you know how many businesses are for sale for under 100K? A lot. Start learning where businesses are listed. Start being able to read, like know how to run a business. So if you buy one, know how the accounting works and accounting software, and how to assess the financial health of a company to be able to dig through all the bull crap and know what the truth is about something too. And you can buy businesses like franchise style where you have to be there, or you can buy businesses that basically run themselves as well. A lot of it's just buying equipment and hiring crews to do stuff, you know, depending on what job you want done. So I can give you examples all day long, but when you get to that point where you have 75, 100K and you've gone through all those steps and you're learning so much, trust me on that, like you will know what to do with it at that point. By that time, you'll have looked and seen, and your mindset will have completely shifted, and you'll find opportunities. To me, it's like, if I don't see an opportunity, I'll give you an example. Like I had some money sitting off to the side, and then I discovered cryptocurrency 2 years ago. And to me, it's like, once I believe in something, you know, I went all in on it. I mean, not literally all in, but I put a significant amount of money in it because I believed in it. And if that hadn't come along for me, or I had not discovered it, that money would have went somewhere else, or it could be still sitting there. So don't be afraid to keep it. If you get 100 and you haven't found anything, keep saving. When you get to 200, you'll find a deal that requires 200.
I couldn't agree more in the sense that there might be somebody listening that's thinking, well, okay, let's say 18 months from now, I don't know what to do with that money. But a lot changes in 18 months. And if you're the kind of person that can figure out how to live off 50%, figure out how to save 50%, figure out how to maximize your assets, figure out how to make your money work for itself, over time, you're going to start building that skill set and that money intelligence to where you'll start seeing opportunities, whether you want to get into real estate or buying businesses, or, you know, making some speculative investments versus some super safe investments.
Yeah, if people are asking you that question, if people are asking you the question, what do I do with my 7,500K? They're solving a problem they don't have yet. You know, like it's the wrong question to be asking. The right questions are like, how do I get there? It won't be an issue once you're there. You know, it's the same with people. I remember when I went through SEAL training, they had this run that you had to do a 7-minute mile for 14 miles in the soft sand and boots on. And the whole time I'm thinking, and this is the very, very end of buds of SEAL training, near the last month of SEAL training. And the whole time before I went there, I'm not a good runner. So I'm stressing out about it, thinking about it. I get there and it was no big deal. You know, because by that time, my body and my mind had conditioned myself that nothing to worry about. And it's the same with this. The least of your problems is knowing what to invest in. It will. I can't give you an opportunity today because it will be different tomorrow. And it will sure be different a few years from now when you have the money to invest.
So let's just get there first. And then, like, don't focus on a problem that's not even there yet, because all you're doing is just taking energy away from saving money or putting the money to work. Okay. So let's say, you know, besides the deal before you got into all this, can you share with me a big mistake that you've made, or something maybe you haven't shared that you learned from that, you know, a listener could learn from as well?
Yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes. I think that there's a general trend that's involved in all of my personal mistakes, and that's ego. To me, I start believing that I am better than I actually am, or I know more than I actually know. And I start believing my own bullshit a lot of times too. And I get myself in trouble because I've made assumptions that that were basically not true. Like, for example, when that big real estate mess happened too, it's like I went away from what I knew and joined people doing something else that was easy. That's the second part of this answer too. If it's simple, easy, and you're wondering like, why is this so easy? There's usually a reason why. Like, look back on Ponzi scheme style things and something like when something doesn't make sense, or you do the math and it's like, well, this can't keep going that way. Like, for example, Social Security. Like, eventually, mathematically, it's going to blow up. But we're all looking at each other and still doing it. That's insanity. So the government can do it, but you can't do it. So you make sure that it makes sense to you. Don't go to somebody else and have them convince you, hey, this is a good deal, go do this. If you don't understand it, man, get away from it and run away. All my mistakes were when I didn't fully 100% understand everything about the deal.
So to say that, again, let's bring up the cryptocurrency thing. The only two cryptocurrencies that I made money on were the ones that I knew the most about. And the ones that I lost money on were the ones I knew the smallest amount, but I saw other people making a killing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I took that and I said, you know what? I lost a good amount of money in those. I made money elsewhere. But this is a lesson in life that I'm going to take with me for forever, that I'm only going to invest in things where I feel like I'm one of the smartest people in the room about. And if I'm just following the FOMO or the hype of somebody else making money, that's a sign for me to either look into it further or walk away. It's cool that you're saying the same thing, because somebody that doesn't have that 75 to 100K, they haven't experienced that issue yet. And that is going to be something they're going to have to learn from. And so I want to just repeat over and over again that make sure when you do get to that point that not only do you have the skill set of money and investing, but you also know the asset class that you're investing in, you know the outcome, and you're not just relying on second or third hand information.
Man, no, that's really, really good advice. Like, I'll use crypto, like, since you brought it up. I remember when I first got into it a couple of years ago, it was the beginning of a 2017 hype. And man, people were over at my house every day, learning, studying, doing stuff. And when Bitcoin crashed down to like $3,200, where is everybody? That whole time they're all going, man, if I could buy it for under $5, man, I wish it was like 6 months ago. I could have bought it under $5. And now it's like $3,200 and they're all gone. There's the time to buy is not when everybody else is buying. Man, you need personal conviction. When it was down at 3,200, that's when you should have bought it. And because you had the information, you saw it go down, but you were fearful when everybody else was fearful, and you were exuberant when everybody else was exuberant. That means you're going to lose money with everybody else too.
Yeah, like Warren Buffett says, the best time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. When everybody else is selling, that's usually the best time to buy. When everybody's buying, there's a frenzy. That's usually when you want to sell.
Let me bring up one more thing too. This is an off topic a little bit, but I think it fits in. To me, it's a lot of people ask me, like, what do I do for motivation to kind of keep learning, looking, things like that too. And I just started actually doing this just a few years ago. What I do is I put carrots out in front of me. So, for example, I always wanted like this really fancy watch. So I set a goal in my businesses. It's like, if my businesses hit this certain level, I'll reward myself and buy myself this watch. So number one, when I have to do things I don't feel like doing, because keep in mind, I'm not really passionate about any of my businesses. But when I have to do parts of it that I don't really like, I keep thinking about that carrot out there, that reward. So I did it with a watch. And then more recently, I did it with a car. And I have many other things that I look at. Like, I'm even looking at getting a new house. Not that I care really about a new house, but to me, it's the motivation that I have always in the back of my mind that keeps me kind of hungry and looking and working hard. Another one is like one of my bucket list goals is to play in the World Series of Poker. So, and it only costs $10K to enter. It's not like that's the barrier, but the barrier is I want to do it my way, which is take a complete year, go get a coach, professional coach, and actually go play around the country and actually learn it for real. And then go play in a World Series. And yes, I'll guarantee you I'll lose all my money, but that's not the point. It's the experience that I want. So I know I'm going to lose my 10K plus whatever I lose for coaching and playing in the year before. But to me, that sounds like something I want to do. Like, I don't have to do it now. I can do that when I'm 65 years old, way down the road. But to me, that's another carrot. Like, I keep thinking of that. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I, why am I sacrificing and all that kind of stuff? And then I remember why. Because not many people can say they've done that. And the ones that have done that have not done something else I've done. And you go down the list, to me, it's like, I want to experience everything there is out there.
Where did you learn to like set those milestones so that it would keep you motivated? Like, how did that come up?
It actually came up when I was arguing with my wife one day, because I thought I wanted to buy that watch. This is several years ago. And she's like, well, why? Why do you want a fancy watch? Do you want to show up? And in the back of my mind, I knew why I wanted to buy it, but I've never verbalized it. I've never sold the concept to anybody. So I had to sit there and explain to her and explain to myself essentially why I'm doing this. And it all just started making sense to me. Like, you look at something, to me, like simple things, if I need something, I just buy it, but completely frivolous, needless things like a watch or a fancy car, I just don't wake up one day and go, hey, I want a 911, I go buy it, So I realized what it did to me, and I started thinking about it because we had many conversations about the watch and the car and things like that. But it took me a while because her mindset is so different, She looks at a thing like that as like, well, you're showing off and it's flashy, or what are you trying to prove, or anything like that. Where I'm looking at it, go, well, I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm probably not even going to wear it very often. But to me, it's a symbol of the hard work I put in and the milestone I hit. Yeah.
I like that, man. Something that I heard Ed Milet say on one of his podcasts, or maybe I heard it at 10X a couple of years ago, is that once you hit that milestone of income and net worth, the actual number, you just want to keep going. And it's not like you're going to get to that, be a millionaire, and then you're going to stop. But then he told me, or he told everybody, in the crowd, that at a certain point, it's like you feel like your persistence and your hustle starts declining because you don't really need to go any further. And that's where he sets these milestones where, let's say he hits a milestone, we'll call it $1 million. How does a person that's worth 10 million, how do they live their life? And he'll take like he'll get a taste of that for one day, and then he'll hit the 10 million. And then how does a person that's worth 100 million live their life? And then he'll go get a taste of that for one day. Maybe it's like renting out a yacht, or it's like renting out, the nicest penthouse in Miami for a night, or something like that, where he'll go get a taste of it. He'll live that life, and it'll open his mindset to like what else is out there. I think it's pretty cool that you kind of have that same mindset where you'll set these milestones, you'll put these carrots in front of you. And once you unlock that or achieve that, you grab it. And that just brings me to my point. You really are a video game character. I've been trying to tell you that for a long time, Joost, that you are Guile from Street Fighter. And now you've been talking about unlocking things.
Oh my God. Dude, I love what you just said, man. Yeah. That was amazing. Like, to me, that kind of brings me into like definition of a couple of words: happiness, contentment, satisfaction. So I have a curse. This is my subjective feeling. I feel I am very happy, but I've never been content and I've never been satisfied, which seems like a contradiction. But a lot of people, most people I know, are content and satisfied, and they do nothing with their lives, and they're not happy. So I'm the opposite. Like, I feel happy, like not all the time, 24/7. I get depressed sometimes like everybody else does. But generally speaking, I'm excited to wake up every day, but also, like, to me, there's always something I'm working towards. Not because it's an item, not because I want the flashy car or the big house. I don't really care about any of that crap. I learned that like a while back. I know what makes me happy is freedom, but just because it's like, to me, I look at it like a board game, like a big Monopoly game. And life is like, you get to play the game every day. You're competing with everybody else. I mean, a lot of people hate to hear that, but it's true. You're competing with everybody else amongst a certain set of rules. And just a challenge of money is just a score, of how you're doing sometimes in the game of life. Now, not everywhere in life, but at least that one financial side. But usually, like, when you get one part of your life figured out, it usually spills over to other parts to your life. So a lot of times, it's like you get discipline over money, then usually you get a good relationship. Usually you're a better parent, and it kind of all fits together that way too.
Yeah, man. That's amazing. How you do one thing is usually how you do everything. And you definitely model that with your health and with your finances. And I know you're a very loving father. And I know you're somebody that has shared with me the ups and downs of the married life, but I know you're very passionate about that as well. And that's why I wanted to bring you on here, because you really are the kind of person that you definitely try your best to be as efficient and, helpful and successful in all areas of your life. And it's something that I really admire. So, as we start wrapping this up, what are some like resources or people or guides or books that have really helped you with all of this in the sense of your finances and your health and your fitness? Maybe opening your mind up to some experiences that you want to set as your carrots. Like, how do you spend some of your free time in that sense?
I'll give you one good tip that helped me out back in 2009 or 8 or 9 when I started doing this. There's a website called Zero Hedge, zerohedge.com. So it's a new site that's kind of focused on more the worldwide financial side, but also includes regular news too. When I first started reading that, I understood maybe every third word. So the challenge is read that. And if you can read every article on the page and understand what it all means, that means you're starting to put it together. So if you come across a word you don't know, you go Google it and look it up and find out what it means, and keep going back and forth. My education came from reading stuff that people intend you not to understand, and then decipher it, understand it anyway. Because everything, like what happened last night, most people don't understand the significance of what happened last night, with repo rates going to 10% and things like that. Actually, you probably didn't even know what happened last night. But the point is, it's like that's the kind of stuff that's a big signal once you know how things work. It helps you predict what the future, it helps you predict where interest rates are going, the economy's going, when the next upturn, downturn is, and these minute little details will start making sense to you. And you have an advantage, when you decide to make a big purchase, when you decide to start a business and things like that, you know when to kind of spend money and you know when to tighten up before everybody else does.
Yeah, man. I love Zero Hedge. I think probably my favorite part about the website is that all the blogs are written by anonymous Tyler Durden from Fight Club, which is pretty cool. But it's a great website. I would say that I'm probably at that 50% right now where, half the articles I'll read, I have a full understanding. And then the other half, I'll have to read them 2 or 3 times and I'll have to Google some terms. I'll have to look into some things. And it's a really good site for, in my opinion, like non-biased financial views on world economics, and a way to get just cut and dry information from, a little bit of against the grain. Nothing is sugar coated. That's for sure.
Yeah, read the articles. Do not read the comments. They're not going to help you at
all. Okay. So what's the next carrot that you set for yourself?
I have quite a few. Like I'm making a list of things I kind of want to do.
Is a Porsche 911 one of them? Did I hear you say something about a 911?
Yeah, that was last year's carrot. So I have one in the garage right now.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to check it out.
Oh, you have to go see it. You have to go see it. So there's a race, or not really it's a race once a year, but generally it's a route. It's called the Tour Divide. It starts in Calgary and ends up down in Mexican border. So it's like 3,600 miles. So I started building like a bikepacking bike, and to see if someday I could actually finish a Tour Divide. So for most people, it takes 4+ up to 6 months or so to do it full time. Living out of your bike. Will I ever do it? Probably not. But that's the goal that's out there, way out there. So in the meantime, I'm actually thinking of this week going out to Mount Baldy and doing my first one-nighter, then doing the Arizona Trail and the Colorado Trail. And there's a bunch of other ones more close to San Diego to train on and learn. And if I'm still excited about it, once I've done a couple of like 500 to 1,000 mile tours, then I may actually take a shot at the big one.
Wow, man. That's amazing. I'm really going to be looking forward to watching your journey on that and rooting for you, because I know that I haven't seen anybody talk about or push themselves to the limits that you have in terms of your health and mindset at the same time. So I have the confidence that you can get it done, man. And I know deep down you got the confidence that you can get it done for sure. Joost, what is like the number one actionable tip you would give somebody after they listen to this? They heard a lot of information, but what's like the number one thing? If you can do this, everything else will be a lot easier.
Today, go home and build a net worth spreadsheet. Only one spreadsheet. You keep that one spreadsheet the rest of your life. And you keep it flowing and keep up on it. Anything worth at least $5,000 goes on there. All your debt goes on there, even your $10 you owe on your credit card. But here's the thing: it's like you value items. Let's say you own a car. Value it what you can sell it for in one day on Craigslist. Put what the dealer would. Don't put like this dealer price or anything like that. Be realistic. The value is what you can sell it for today on Craigslist, everything you own. Cash now. So cash now is really good because you can get exactly for it what the denomination says. So yeah, all your assets start making now. You own precious metals, gold, silver, all that kind of stuff. Write it all in there. All right. And start thinking of net worth rather than income, debt, money, toys, whatever you want to call it. Investments is all net worth. So if you can get that going, that alone will just change your life.
Got it. And think of it like a board game, like you said, where the goal is to constantly be stacking and building your net worth, constantly be building it. That's how you're going to win at this game called life. And whether you think it's all about the money or not, which I don't think we truly, any of us think we do, it's all about what we can do with that money and what we can provide with that money. And the only way to get there is by building our net worth. Joost, where can we find you? What's like the number one social media way to follow you?
Hey, before I get into that, it just kind of occurred to me that I'm being very, not negative, but very conservative about spending your money on toys and things like that. So I just wanted to put out there, it's like, if 50% of your income is a lot of money, like if you make $1 million a year, don't be afraid to spend that $500,000, take the crazy vacations, buy the toys, do all that kind of stuff. That's the time to do it, because in the back of your mind, you'll enjoy it more because the other 500 is being invested and working for you. So don't think you're going to have to spend your whole life being like all careful. You're going to do it for a few years until you get the system going. And then you can start living like a baller if that's what you want.
I like that. I'm glad you added that, because for me, my carrot next year and then a couple years after that. But my carrot this year, I was very close to buying like a dual motor P90 or whatever Tesla Model 3. I was really close to it. But I realized that it was just a little bit out of what my comfort zone was for. I essentially wanted to be able to, if I can buy it cash, I want to buy it 10 times. That's kind of my rule when it comes to cars. If I can buy 10 of them and still have my nest egg and still be able to do investments, then I'll go do that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Hey, just hold out for the Roadster, man. It's coming out in a few years. It's got 650-mile range, 0 to 60 in 1.9.
I know, man. It's going to be sick, man. Well, also that truck they're coming out with. But the reason why I want to check out your 911 is because sometime in the next few years, I want to buy like a 90s, just really classic, nice 911 that doesn't depreciate too much. If anything, it starts appreciating, and I can just hold it for a long time, because that's been my dream car for a while. But I'm really glad you brought that up, because some people think that when it comes to being like financially intelligent, you have to be frugal, but they're not one and the same. To get there, you have to be frugal, but then at that point, you can splurge, you can live the life how you want. You can go spend your money on stupid things that don't appreciate in value, as long as you're disciplined with your systems, disciplined with the rest of it. And so thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. And on that note, Instagram, is that the best way to follow you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm not a big social media guy. Like, I may go 3 months without turning on my Facebook to see what people are doing, but I'm on there. You can DM me through either Instagram or Facebook. I respond to everybody unless it's something completely silly. But yeah, so I'm on there, Joost J_official on Instagram. And then I think it's just my name on Facebook. So.
Cool. Well, Joost, you gave us some awesome information today. We'll link some of the links that you provided to find out more about you and follow you on social. We'll link those in the show notes. I know the listeners got a lot of value today. I hope everybody goes home and creates that net worth spreadsheet, then starts figuring out how they can live off 50% of their income. Then, like Joost says, he promises everything else will fall into place after that. If you got any questions about the show, you can DM Joost or myself, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Thanks, Chase.
Thanks for listening to Life Worth Chasing with me, your host, Chase Maher. If you like the show, smash that subscribe button, leave me a rate and review. You know what? Screenshot the show, share it on Instagram, tag me at I am Chase Maher, and I'll repost it. There's hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and you've made the decision to listen to mine, which is so cool. I'll see you on the next show.